Subtle skills, big results.
Welcome to the Ninja Selling Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ninja Selling Podcast. He's Garrett, I'm Matt, and today we're going to be the Redundancy Department of Redundancy. We got a great episode lined up for you. First of all, if you guys are interested in learning more about ninja selling, we know that a lot of you find the podcast through friends and other people who are sharing it, which we absolutely appreciate that you all do. So if you're curious about learning more about what ninja selling is and kind of what is the platform behind this podcast, head over to ninjaselling.com. You can learn about the book. You can learn about installations, which is our 4-day training. You can learn about one-on-one coaching, which is where Garrett and I spend a lot of our time. And you can learn about Ninja Mastery, which is the next phase that you can go into after completing an installation. You can also join our incredible community of podcast listeners that are installation graduates and non-installation graduates, people learning more about Ninja. Just head over to Facebook and search for the Ninja Selling Podcast. You'll find a group over 12,000 people. That's us. It's the fastest growing group in the entire universe, of course. And so we appreciate that. So with that said, Garrett, Redundancy, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, sir. How's it going today?
Going great, man. It's a bright, shiny day here in South Carolina. So I got a big smile on my face.
I feel like the West Coast flopped the weather with the East Coast right now. Like we got thunderstorms and light, like we got rain coming down every single night. I'm like, wow, we're getting a little tropical over here.
The Southeast is like the only spot. Like the Northeast has got the smoke and stuff from coming down from Canada. They're having, I mean, it's been nice. We've got our little thunderstorms, but that's typical for our summertime. So
we're a little tropical though. Like we get humidity. We don't usually have humidity and things like that, but it's gorgeous. We love it.
It's a nice thing.
I'm excited to go down this with you today, Matt, because in coaching, when we're working with people, I find a lot of times as you start to add on systems, as they start to grow with ninjas, they start to kind of take ownership of their business. They start realizing that they might feel like they're doubling up in certain areas. And they'll say the word redundant, that this feels like it's being redundant. And a lot of times they try to reduce the redundancy. Yeah, they try to reduce the redundancy.
Well, as if it's a bad thing.
As if it's a bad
thing. Right? They look at like, oh, there's too much redundancy here. I'm doing the same thing. And there is redundancy that we probably don't want to have.
There is a point at which it's a problem because it's like you only have so many hours in the day and you can only track the same thing so many times. However, there is a huge benefit, Matt, and that's why we wanted to talk about this today. There is a huge benefit in not just once going, yeah, that was done, making sure that not only was it done, but it was done at the level that we wanted to be done at. And not only was it done at the level that we wanted to be done at, are we getting the results that we're getting from it? And taking a deeper dive into each one of these systems as we start to break them down. And it's not a bad thing to have I'll use the 50 people as example, Matt. It's not a bad thing to have just a checkbox that you have as you go through the week to say, okay, where am I currently at right now as I'm blazing through my days? I'm at 25 people and it's Tuesday. Woohoo, let's go. There's another side of it of like, well, then I also keep track of it in my CRM. And so I'm like putting their name in there. So do I really need to do the checkboxes throughout the day? Or is it okay that I'm just putting these people into my CRM? And this is where it gets interesting, Matt, because like if they're not doing the check boxes and then they're just putting them in their CRM, I'm like, well, what numbers are you at for this week? Well, I think I'm at. I know I've been putting lots of people in, but it just felt redundant, doing these two different things. And it's like, no. Like now you've lost some of the power. And this is where I think every system, and this is where Matt, you and I were talking about earlier, is that the more complicated anything is, the more checks and balances and redundant procedures start to come into play.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have systems in Ninja that have redundancy built in. And you're right. The more complicated it gets, you want to have redundancy. Think about hospital operations, when they're doing surgeries and things, the amount of time they count certain things. And I've witnessed this before too. And I'm like, wow, they're counting that a lot. Like, yeah, because they want to make sure they got everything, where it's supposed to be. And people say, well, in business, it's like, all right, it's not life-saving type of stuff. I've done it once. That should be good enough. Well, is it? And most of the time, it's not with certain things. And when you think about your database, because you mentioned your 50 live contacts a week, people who we're talking to, having check boxes in the CRM, the database is the central nervous system to your business. So there's no place that you can spend more time in that's more important than your database and paying attention to your people, which is why Ninja Success Habits 4 and 5 are focus on your hot list daily, focus on your warm list daily. Daily. Every single day. People are like, oh, redundant, that's too much.
And boring.
Yeah, right? And we're not talking about spending a half an hour every day with these things, but that is there for a very specific reason. Another system where we have redundancy built in that we get some pushback on is the Monday morning agenda, or also known inside coaching as the weekly meeting agenda, where you're reviewing, who did I talk to last week? Who did I do real estate reviews last week? Well, I already have that marked down, Garrett. Why do I have to go back and look at that again? Because we want you to think about them.
Yep.
Because there is power in compounding the attention that you spend on your people. And so the first area of redundancy that we must have is your people. Are we redundant with how we are thinking about and focusing on our people? That is a good thing. Don't let the CRM do the thinking for you. Yes. Will that help you remember birthdays and stuff like that? Absolutely. Let it do those things. But you focus particularly on those top people, Garrett, thinking about those people every week, your hot and warm list every single day. All of a sudden, like, how many times have you heard someone say to you, Garrett, man, I just really started leaning into like thinking about these things, and all of a sudden people just started calling me.
Oh, it's the craziest thing in the world. It's so, but they're like, am I doing that? Like, did I?
Yes.
Is this me? I'm like, yes, you are more powerful than you think you are. Yes, you are. There's this, it's not that weird. I've been around doing this long enough. You know, the that whole focusing on people and bringing them in real genuine relationships, Matt. This is where a lot of people will argue this, and they will come to me and say, Garrett, no. My CRM is my lifesaver. It's helped me build a great business. I get it. It will help you maintain touches with people and reach out at certain times. You bringing people to focus in your mind all the time, all of a sudden is where the real genuine relationships get built from. The ones that people go like, did I do that? Look at these results that I just created. Miracle type businesses are usually not generated off of a business that the CRM is constantly pinging you to call people. It is usually generated off the one where you yourself has decided to call people because you have brought them so many times in your mind on a weekly, on a monthly basis, that when you do pick up the phone to call them, they're like, oh my gosh, it is so great to talk to you. Because every time we talk to them, it's meaningful, it's powerful, but it all comes around from bringing them to light, bringing them back into your mindset, bringing them back around again, and having this redundant pattern that we're in. I was just thinking about this as you were talking, Matt, about, you know, another area of redundancy is like the buyer's process.
Mm-hmm.
We have questions that we ask over the phone. We have questions that we ask when we're in person. You talk about the pre-listing interview. We have questions that are asked over the phone, and then you have your Sweet 16 listing presentation.
That's where a lot of people say, why am I asking these questions again? I already asked them.
Yep.
Well, there's a reason that redundancy is there. And I mean, the list is long.
Well, I was when I broke my leg. You know, I here I am. Leg's been broken for a couple of days. I've been talking with my doctor, my surgeon, and we've sat there. He's been in there for x-rays. We've sat there while he's looked at my leg. He's moved around. It's swollen the size of, I can't tell you how big. And I'm sitting there in my little hospital outfit, you know, with my IVs all hooked up to me. We're getting ready to go into surgery first thing in the morning. And he walks in and he goes, so what leg are we operating on? And I looked at him and I said, you're making me a little nervous here right now. He goes, it's a question I have to ask you. What leg are we operating on? I said, would you like me to tell you or would you like me to point? He said, he goes, either way, just let me know what leg we're operating on. I said, this leg. He goes, can you tell me what we're performing on you today? I said, you are going to be fixing my ankle. I think I'm getting a plate in and whatnot. And he says, that's exactly right. And he says, I'm going to initial right here. Is this where your break is? And he initials my ankle. And I'm sitting here going, part of me's going like, this is a little scary. But
Am I performing the surgery myself? He's like, so Garrett, how would we like to, initiate the surgery today?
Yeah, exactly.
Pick up that device. Go ahead. You can grab it now.
But you figure that level of redundancy is done because mistakes have been made.
Oh, yeah.
They have opened up people's wrong ankles and sat there and went, this isn't broken. Oh, silly me, wrong foot. Sean, it happened again. Isn't that funny? Hey, close them up. Like, we got to redo this, guys. We'll start again tomorrow. Like, that has happened, probably with not as much levity around it.
Yeah. There probably wasn't the joy. Like, there's probably some 4-letter words that were inserted into all of that when that happens.
This patient's name is Garrett, right? Oh, we don't even have the right guy. Like,
well, and that's why, like, when you walk into a listing, the first thing you say, so we're selling the house so that we can get to here by this point. Is that correct? Or tell me where you're going to go. And actually, I'm glad we're talking about the processes, because I think this is exactly where we need to have more redundancy. So there's two things. There's getting the business and doing the business, right? And I think people can understand, okay, good redundancy in getting the business makes sense. There's also the top of mind thing. But in doing a transaction, people say, but I've already told them that. They've already had this pre-listing packet. Great. Tell them again.
Tell them again. Tell them again. Tell them again.
Every customer service call.
And tell them again.
We should be stating what the goal is. Every single customer service call. Great. Hey, we're on this path to do X. Yep. Great. Here's where we're at.
And Matt, I know I said tell them again, but the real part of it is ask them again.
Yeah.
Ask them again, ask them again, ask them again. Because one of the things we're looking for as we're working through a process like working with the seller, we need to make sure that the answer is always the same. I always am fearful when I watch somebody who's working with a really close friend. Because what happens is they go like, well, I don't need to ask that question. I know that question. We had dinner with them the other night. I know exactly where they're at. I don't need to go through that. We can just jump right to this piece. And it's like, nah, we don't want to assume. There's a reason we need to have these redundant parts in here. And it's okay to say, I feel like I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask again because I want to make sure I don't miss anything. The redundant piece provides clarity and repeatable results every single time when you're redundant. You get a chance to make sure that there's nothing slipping through the cracks. Nobody has any misunderstandings. We're all on the same page, whether that's in the process of buying or selling, or in the process of building good relationships with people, or in the process of all of our systems that we do and making sure that not only are we writing notes, but how many are we really writing? And let's really check back and see, like, out of all those notes, are they just notes going out the door? Or are they like, let's make a check mark of how many notes that we wrote that actually got a response back on them. Oh, but this is so redundant. I feel like I'm trudging through the mud now. But it's like, at the end of the day, what if you got your business by you being redundant and checking and double checking and triple checking so that when you do these systems, they're awesome. Like, they're amazing because you have figured it out by doing all these checks, not only the next day, but the next week, the next month, throughout the end of the year. How did my notes work for me? Let's go through all of them. Let's figure out what worked, what didn't work. How can we make them better? This is all about growth. This is all about having the predictable results that you want to have to build the miracle type businesses that all of you guys want out there.
Oh, yeah. And it doesn't take a lot of time to have this redundancy. I know it seems like it, particularly when you're reviewing your own activity. How did that real estate review go? How did those handwritten notes go? I know it seems like it's a lot of extra time, but if it's an extra hour a week doing that review, to have that redundancy, to understand what's going on, it's going to save you so much time in the long run. Plus, if you build redundancy into your processes, and this is where, okay, at every milestone of a customer journey, whether it's a buyer or seller, restating what's going next, right? Here's where we're at. Here's where we're going. Here's where we're at. Here's where we're going. Every single time, asking them the questions. How do you feel about this journey so far, right? I mean, you don't have to ask that specific question, although you could. Mm-hmm. That might be a good one. That level of communication is going to help your clients understand that you're in control of this process, right? And that they can control those decisions. I see one of the biggest areas where people end up on the hot and confused list, Garrett, or people are moving their people backwards from the hot to the warm, as we talked about on a recent episode, is they're not providing the redundancy, or they're not putting the redundancy into their processes to get clarity so they can understand that, hey, this client is just not ready to buy right now. So we can remove them from the list completely. So redundancy is going to help you have clarity of who's ready to go and who's not, so that you have a clean list of people that you know what's happening next with. And that's invaluable.
So since you touched on the hot list and the warm list of the business tracker, it's like, okay, so I know a lot of people go like, well, I don't need to have a handwritten hot and warm list because my CRM does that for me. And it's like, all right. And part of me wants to go, yeah, but that system's not working for you. Like, you understand that, right? Like, yes, you have it in your CRM, but you're not checking it. They're just there. They're kind of hidden in your groups. And yeah, once a week you go open up and go like, hey, I got a hot and warm list. Yay. I can check the box. I can tell my coach that I got a hot and warm list and I've looked at it. But what are you doing with it? So then you go, okay, well, let's be redundant. We got the hot and the warm list in our computer. What if we made a huge whiteboard on our wall also? So the whiteboard we're going to look at every single day. We got the CRM now that's going to ping us here every once in a while to let us know, hey, we should be checking in with these people. We should be doing this stuff. Hey, you haven't talked to these guys in a while. So now we got some redundant features here. What if we also did what my friend did and create this flow chart around the top of the office? So we've got this list in our computer that pings us and reminds us. We've got this great whiteboard of all the people that we currently have that are potential business. And we have this magnetic thing around the top of the office with these little homes on it and people's names written on it. And we're like, all these homes are stuck on the warm list right now. And here, I got to grab one of those and now move it to the hot list. And I get to grab this now and move it over to under contract. And we get to grab it now and move it over to the closed side. And we have this flow of these homes around the room of the top of the office of these people that need our help. This is all redundancy. You could very easily do just the one that's on the ceiling, but that one's not going to ping you and remind you like who's important. We could just have this whiteboard that we could see everybody's names on it, but that doesn't have the energy of this flow chart that's roaming around the top. Or we can have the system in our computer that, it's a hot and a warm list and we got our people here and it pings us. But unless it pings us, we don't even realize it exists. The redundancy of all these things makes it become magical.
Oh, yeah. Well, you surround yourself in it so you don't forget anything, right? And that's what redundancy is designed to do. Think about flying a plane. Are you cool with them double and triple checking and cross checking all the doors to make sure that they're closed before takeoff? I mean, you appreciate that as a passenger, right?
I think we have enough fuel to get us to Cincinnati. We filled it up. We checked it on the flight before this. Yeah. We should be fine.
I mean, these are systems designed to keep, and I think this is where maybe the disconnect is. We think redundancy is just there to keep us safe, but redundancy is also there to help you thrive. So it is there to keep your business safe. And you're like, well, I mean, what's safety in my business, right? Like no one's going to die. True. I will let's hope not. But it's also designed to help.
What kind of real estate business do you have?
Demolition.
Do you imagine if you approached every real estate transaction as your life was on the line? Hold on a second here.
Think about demolition. Yeah, we checked that house. I think it's clear.
I think it's empty.
Johnny, hit the button. We're ready to take this thing down.
Let's do one more walkthrough.
But in the elements that it can help you thrive, one, it gives you a focused set of actions. So you automatically start to push clutter out of the way because you are going to take more time in your redundant systems, which is going to push out all the non-important things, right? And then you're going to know exactly where you need to be next. And you're going to know where you don't need to be because of that redundancy. You're going to be like, you know what? My notes knocked it out of the park last week. And I got these 5 people that I got to focus on this week. I don't need to pay attention to this over here because this, after checking this, has told me, these are the people I need to focus on. Great. Awesome. Have a fantastic week. Go out there and crush it. That's why the Monday morning agenda, the weekly meeting agenda, is designed to be very redundant in helping you understand where do I need to have redundant communications, who are the people that I need to have redundant focus on, and what are the things in my system, the operations that I might need to refocus on and have some redundancy there with too. It's all there for a reason, and don't shy away from it. I love redundancy.
Yeah. And again, I mean, there's always a point at which if if the same system's being done, I do get it that there are some areas that you can sit back and simplify stuff, but don't just think because it's being done twice that it's redundant and it's not worthwhile. You got to take that step back and look at each one of those and say, well, what does this one do for me? And that's the reason I shared the 3 ways you could do a business tracker.
Yeah.
They're all redundant of each other, but they all bring different levels to the power of what that thing is.
And there's redundancy in how you operate too, right? I mean, don't think like, oh gosh, and now I got to go buy like magnets and stick them on the ceiling and stuff. I mean, you could. That sounds actually like a really cool idea to me. But you could also just like set up a second screen and make sure that your CRM's always there, or have a reminder in your calendar to go and check your hot list and warm list every single day and sit there and focus on it. You can use your calendar to your advantage. You can use your planner, if you're a handwritten planner person, to your advantage. You can use your morning routine as an advantage to you. I mean, there's just so much benefit that comes with having high quality redundancy. I mean, obviously there's things that like you could probably overdo. Actually, I wouldn't even say that. You can't really overdo it. You can just kind of just spend more time on things than maybe you might need to, but you're never going to hinder yourself from being redundant, right? There's not going to be a problem from being redundant. Like when you think about the things that can cause problems in your business, double checking things, triple checking things is definitely not one of those things.
What we want in any running business is predictable results. That's what you want. We can have results every once in a while. Matt, we watch people all the time that have big results, and then you sit back and you say, and I always ask people when they have big results, what caused those results to come in? And they'll say things like, oh, well, we had a run in the marketplace. And I'm like, I don't know if I agree with that. Like, what exactly were you up to and were you doing? And we got to dig down to find out. It's like, this all spurs back to you doing these things consistently for a while. And it's interesting when you're not having results, you can do the same thing and go back and say, let's figure this out. Well, when you have the redundancy of checking to making sure, okay, one of my systems I have is my Monday morning meeting. That's a redundant piece to make sure that all these systems are being done. Then we're going to come back and we're going to look at the Monday morning agenda, as you were talking about earlier, Matt, to make sure it's like, yeah, I said I was going to have lunches with these people this week. I need to make sure, are they scheduled? Do they know we're having lunch, or is it just something that I was hoping for? Maybe we need to schedule those. Same thing with notes. I got all these people I want to write notes to, but like, let's check back. Redundant every week. I'm going to make sure I have enough note cards. I'm going to make sure I have enough stamps. I'm going to make sure I got my favorite colored pen, the one that just flows so nicely. Like, we're going to make sure we have all that stuff so that we can be successful every single time. Like, I know I check, it's really about once a week. I check the top shelf in I have a closet, it's my library is really what it is. It's a very small library. It is a walk-in.
Made of rich mahogany and has many leather-bound books.
It's funny. There's no leather-bound books in there. And it is pressboard shelves. No mahogany. But on these shelves and at the very top, I have a stack of legal pads. And I make sure there's always a stack of legal pads in there because I move very fast throughout my days. I have lots of ideas that come to my mind all the time. And the worst thing in my world ever is when I go to grab a brand new legal pad because I'm out of my legal pads and it's not there. And it's like, I go up there and it's like, crap. Like, I've got thoughts. I have things that I need to get onto paper so I don't lose them. And I know there's a lot of you out there going like, oh, I've got a great app and this and that and whatnot. Yeah.
That's fine. That's part of your redundancy, right? I mean,
I love it.
Like, hey, I always have this, always have my phone charged up, always have this, my car gassed up. You know, I always like, hey, even if I don't need it, I'm swinging by the gas station. Let's pull in and fill up. These are just little, I mean, redundancy works in many different ways in your world.
But I know most of the time I go check, there's plenty in there. There's plenty, but it's kind of like my weekly check. It's a weekly, just kind of like, getting my bearing on everything that we need, just like making sure there's enough gas in the airplane tanks so that we're going to be able to get to where we want to go. It's just like, yep, I got myself my notepads. If I get down to like 2 or 3 notepads, here we come, Amazon. Like, I'm going to get my new notepads and we're going to get them ordered. The box is going to show up, stack them on up there. So again, just these are the things we just want to be doing consistently in our business. So Matt, do you have any other thoughts around this? This was a great topic. I appreciate you bringing this up. We've talked about this one for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I think just the final thought is check your systems and look at where you can add that redundancy. I would start with, the two parts in your getting the business side of making sure you're reviewing your hot list and warm list every single day. And then in the doing the business side, are you making sure that the client is clear on your customer service calls and at every major milestone of what is the goal and what's happening next?
And I'm going to go with, in this marketplace right now, where I'm finding most people are getting into trouble, is they are assuming what their clients need and want and where they're at. And if you're going to be redundant anywhere right now, I would be redundant in the processes of bringing clients in, the 10-step buyer's process, the Sweet 16 listing presentation, the pre-listing interviews. If I was going to be redundant anywhere right now, that's where I would start, instead of just breezing through and then wondering why we have sellers that won't reduce their prices and keep them in the right, so they can be sellable. So we can have buyers that are willing to be reasonable and out here that can make the tough decisions in a marketplace that may not be perfect for all the buyers. This is where I would be redundant right now on a very stringent high level. So
hands down, man.
With that being said, Matt, thank you so much for this. Appreciate you all. If you want to learn more about Ninja Selling, go to ninjaselling.com. If you want to learn more about the coaching program, we have 30 amazing, wonderful coaches, all handpicked by me, trained by me. And we are waiting to help you with Ninja systems. So if you want to take your business down the Ninja path, we are here to help you down that path. And as Matt was talking earlier about mastery, we have mastery that's available to all installation graduates. And it's been revamped, reworked. It is awesome now. The level that it's been taken to is really incredible, not only for reinforcing the Ninja systems that you learned at the installation, but also for helping you network with ninjas all over the United States. They pair you up with incredible groups of people to help you build your businesses, not just with your systems, but also with the working and helping of others. So with that being said, appreciate you all. Matt, have an amazing day. Everybody out there, have an amazing day, and we will be back soon.
Thanks, everybody.
If you enjoyed today's episode and would like more, visit us at theninjasellingpodcast.com.
There you will also find links for more information about Ninja Selling and coaching. Have an incredible day.